afternoon, and many thanks to Ina and the ELA Program Committee for putting together such an interesting conference. The subject matter of my presentation today, I'm afraid, do not quite fit into the definition of early recordings. For this reason, I owe you all an apology, and also I would like to express my deepest gratitude for letting me into your group, that I am totally an outsider and imposter, I'm afraid. The purpose of my presentation is to show how early as well as contemporary recordings can be a dynamic site to gain understanding of a place and its people. The handful of recordings pertinent to my project document global musical movements and networks at the intersection of diametrically opposing forces, traditional versus contemporary, local versus global, regional versus national, past versus present, and colonial versus post-colonial, etc. In the following, I'm going to discuss these recordings in three aspects, namely geography, meaning, and creativity. So let's start with geography, that I'm going to trace the geography of the recordings pertaining to my project. But then let me start with the recording of a Cantonese song called Fragrance of the Durians. Durians is a very unique and pungent fruit that you may like it or you may just hate it. And the fruit is from Southeast Asia. So that really highlights the title of the song. And the Cantonese song then is from Hong Kong, where I originated. And it was this song that led me to these other recordings related to it or predated it. So let's start with the song. If you may, you can look at the Chauvet notation. And then also my translation of the text is 飄來榴蓮之香，萬顆星震天。飄來榴蓮之香，芬芳到嘴邊。飄來榴蓮之香，大家執個先。飄來榴蓮之香，我得似蜜餞。Okay, we are just half through the song and we don't have time to listen to the entire song, but you get the idea. Fragrance of the Durians is the third song collected in Lam Fong's song album #1, which was produced by the Singaporean company Ruby Records in 1960. Lam was actually a renowned Hong Kong movie star at the time. The 12 songs in her album were from 2 films she took part in, produced by the local film mogul, the Shaw Brothers. As shown on the film booklet, Lam appeared or played the role as a Nanya girl, that is an Indo-Chinese mixed race. She wearing the local ethnic attire and holding a durian. Based on the information in the movie booklet, as well as information spread through newspaper recordings, the song was attributed to a local Hong Kong musician by the name of Ho Xiang or Li Ho Xiang, which actually was a misattribution, as the song's melody was not by this Hong Kong composer, but by an Indonesian Chinese musician by the name of Oyuk Sen, possibly written in the 1940s or even earlier in the 1930s. That I had no information, but just based on information provided by bloggers on the internet. So the Indonesian song is known as Impian Semalong, which was a very well-known song in Indonesia, and to the extent that it has been often taken as an Indonesian folk song. You will hear the melody. So I did not lie. Ular menggigit dari kakiku. Setelah menggigit ular berlalu. Ku gigit darah keluar. Aku menjerit aduh hingga tersedar. Apakah itu arti maksudnya? Impian semalam amat kerennya. So again, just half of the song. The earliest recording of Impian's Semalong that I came across is a 10-inch 78 RPM shellac record produced by the Indonesian music company that you can see on this PowerPoint. Nonetheless, without a known release date. But given the format of the recording, which faded after the mid-1950s, and then the Indonesian recording company, Irama, was only established in 1954, also based on internet information. So I assume then this recording was made in either 1954 or 1955, even though the song may have been composed prior to that. But then there's no proof that Fragrance of the Durians was directly connected to Impian Semalong, as the Indonesian song's melody was also captured in a Mandarin cover known as the New Malay Love Song. And so because of the language of the New Malay Love Song, which was in Mandarin, which was closer to Cantonese, so that I make that sort of guess. And then the New Malay Love Song was released by the Singaporean company Horse Records in 1955, and also in a 10-inch shellac format. As a matter of fact, Horse Records recordings were widely circulated in Hong Kong at the time, probably more so than the Indonesian music company. So this is the New Malay Love Song. Again, to prove that I did not lie. Same tune, but of course it's a different tempo, different kind of arrangement. Again, only half of the song. Cultures and cultural products travel, and likewise music and its recordings. A melody that traveled from Indonesia to Singapore, Malaysia, and then to Hong Kong in the middle of the last century is a case in point of music's mobility in geography, thanks to the advent of the recording technology to document them and possibly also contribute to them. Not to overlook among these recordings is the stylistic migration of the global jazz network. Based on this article I found online, the earliest jazz activity in Indonesia was traceable to the colonial network of Dutch East Indies in Batavia. As mentioned in this article in 1919, shortly after the first jazz recording was made in 1917, a group of missionary boys from San Francisco were reported to have arrived in Batavia bringing with them all kinds of entertainment, including jazz. Local jazz bands were said to be formed in the early 1920s, and recordings of jazz music was said to be traveled from Singapore, said to be traveled from Shanghai via Singapore, all colonial cities of the time. And in fact, then if you think about the recording of the Imperial Samalong, the arrangement exemplifies a very strong jazz phenomenon. The song actually is identified as a pop and jazz in genre in an online record catalog. Its melody showing like a strong swing feel with the use of syncopation, and its instrumentation, the piano, bass, and drum, is a jazz configuration. The Irama Special Trio listed on the record label, a recording studio-based jazz ensemble, was probably a standard practice of the time that was also like a practice in Shanghai recordings that I am most familiar with. And also I think this morning then it was mentioned that in Belgium and in a record, the Chantel record label, that there was such kind of like recording related ensembles. So, well, let's hear the jazz bit again. So now we go into the part about meaning. Recordings are technological artifacts, but they are also artworks, as Professor Marquez had pointed out 2 days ago at his keynote speech. What recordings sonically capture carry meanings for people who make them and also for those who consume them, and of course for like researchers like me and probably you guys. One obvious way to unravel a song's meaning, of course, is through its lyrics, and lyrics of Asian popular songs, since they were written in the local dialect, such as in Cantonese or Mandarin or Indonesian, in spite of the song's Western musical language, then carry utmost importance to the locals. The lyrics of Imperial Samalong, meaning a dream last night, is an intrigue and even allegorical in nature. So let's look at the lyrics. Okay. So the song's lyrics is about the dream of the protagonist in the song being bitten by a snake, which left him very frightened. But he was comforted by his lover that he was only in a dream and there were more pleasant things to happen. So since we don't know when exactly the song was composed, so we just had to give it meaning or to provide a reading of it. So I assume if the song was composed in the late 1940s or early 1950s, then I would like to give it a sort of like a political reading. And the snake bite being a metaphor for the anxiety the Indonesian Chinese community experienced in the face of the country's anti-Chinese policies. As related by a Chinese blogger, Oin's father and his other family members left Indonesia in the early 1950s. That was before the onslaught of the massive anti-Chinese movement in 1965. But of course, that's just like a reading that is not based on fact. Then the Mandarin New Malay love song then was straightforward in its message, as I understand it. Its lyrics depicting the courtship between Nangya Chinese girl and a Malaysian native boy. The reference to Mr. Malay's attire in the lyrics, the use of Malay words in the song such as kampong, cinta, rumput, and then the call and response dialogue singing, and the unison singing at the last line of the text, we work together to build our sweet home, then all point to a subtle political and social message about racial and cultural harmony in the region. At a time, supposedly the song was written in the early 1950s or late 1940s and so on, Singapore and Malaysia were fighting for political independence. Then the Cantonese fragrance of the durian then is a bit meaningless or pale in meaning when compared to its counterparts, as the song's lyrics only hail the fragrance of the durians. But then I will argue this kind of very meaningless song lyrics is precisely how this song embodied Hong Kong's social-political situation as a colonial subject of the British Empire. In that the film company, Shaw Brothers, operate in such a context to produce entertainment in a cost-effective, popular, and industrially sustainable manner, while avoiding any social messages or aesthetic challenges, just not to offend anybody in Hong Kong and to just make money. The racial conflict that created tension in the film between the Chinese boy and the Nanyang girl was handled merely as class and generation disagreement and involving no racial conflicts nor political issues. In a way, the success of the fragrance of the durians was an ingenious commercial calculation that using a pre-existing tune as one of the film's song's melodies was a great tactic to reach out to the film's intended Hong Kong as well as Nanyang audience. Nanyang was a very popular concept at the time, and Nanyang refers to regions of Southeast Asia, namely today's Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, where there were a high population of diasporic Chinese. The fact that Nanyang audience saw the film as a Malaysian Chinese production is telling of the film's transnationality in a global network of Chinese diaspora in Southeast Asia, particularly in monetary terms. And now then we get into the third part of, last part of my presentation about creativity. Recordings are also instrumental in documenting as well as encouraging creativities. The three very different songs of the same melody that we have looked at is a case in point of transnational creativities. In fact, each of these three songs have inspired a great deal of national covers in the process of localization and recontextualization. Take, for instance, a local cover of Impia Samalong is in the style of Karong song, an Indonesian popular song style that emphasizes the sonority of krong 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 sang from either ukulele or gamelan. And so here is the cover. So you get the idea. There's no denying that the emergence of popular music in Asia, such as the recordings we heard, was a consequence of Western cultural hegemony and colonialism. But it is not to overlook the creativity infused into the objectified empty containers of the so-called Western popular music, the AABA format, the westernized style accompaniments, and likewise the recording technology that helped to transmit these songs. The indigenization process evident in Imperial Samalon is also evident in many covers of Fragrance of the Durians or other songs. Take for instance, and then I'm going to play you a Cantonese opera-style infused Fragrance of the Durians. With such kind of rendition, then the cover actually removed the meaning and the sonic quality of the original song. sung in the Cantonese opera style kind of vocal song. Get the idea. So before I conclude, I would like to play you another cover by the famed canto pop superstar Anita Mui, and she was really, really famous in Hong Kong in the 1980s. But she made the song's recording in the album in 1998. And well, that's a very sensitive year for Hong Kong people after the 1997 hangover of Hong Kong to our so-called motherland. And then the song's New Age style and also the updated lyrics. And she actually had a very famous local lyricist to sort of recompose the lyrics for her own expression, then really gave meaning to the song. So the lyrics is about her reflection of the past, which really fits into the nostalgia that was really widespread in Hong Kong at the time. Okay. Now my conclusion. Without the advent of recording technology, would such a circulation of music as the one I presented be possible at all? My rhetorical question to myself. To such a question, my answer would be still yes, as there are many prior examples of the movement of good tunes through manuscripts. But then there's no doubt that recording technology helps to capture the sonic property of music, without which music can only exist in live performance or once had. In this regard, recordings serve to preserve stylistic elements or performance practice of the music that would otherwise be challenging to imagine for those without sonic access. Recordings, through the music they capture, are treasure troves that can let us into many things. For instance, they can tell us how music travels, they can tell us what a song's text possibly means, they can show us how music from different places connects stylistically, they can also tell us how music evolves to reflect local identity. I think these things would not be possible if music is only transmitted by score notation. By tracing a song's network as manifest in its various transnational and national covers in an array of styles and its connections to the popular music industry and movie industry, what I term the global network, I would like to draw attention to the local context that was at play in the process of musical covering and recovering initiated by local musicians or even just audiences. If you look through YouTube, you will find like hundreds and hundreds of covers of these three songs that I talk about. I thus argue that Asian popular music, despite its indebtedness to Western popular music, is both global as well as local. Each piece, even just its covers, though seemingly hybrid in nature, testifies to the globalization of the 20th and 21st century, which is no doubt closely connected to the recording industry. Thank you.